And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Our great friend Dave Petzo will join us in a second. Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, and on Facebook and Twitter at Petzo Financial. Dave, good to have you with us.
It's good to be here, Kevin.
You know, it was great having you at the great Thanksgiving banquet at the Boise Rescue Mission the other day. What did you think of that?
Oh, Kevin, it's always it's such a neat event, and what the Rescue Mission does is it's always right there. Every time I go to one of these things, it touches my heart. It really does. I'm not sure I'll ever get used to that. I'm sure you feel the same way, Kevin, all the different times you hang out with the folks at the Rescue Mission and you see how giving they are, how generous they are with their time, their life, and changing people's lives. It's really inspiring.
And in addition to that, it was great to see Chief Bones there, along with several other people, and our friends from Channel 7, Larry Gebert, Mark Johnson. I don't know who did a better job singing, the Broncos or Mark Johnson. You were really into Mark Johnson singing, doing his best Elvis.
He was doing a good job. He's quite a singer. I thought that was very impressive. He loves to entertain, doesn't he?
Indeed. Speaking of entertaining, let's take a look at the House's Tax Cut and Jobs Act. People say it's going to lower taxes on companies in an effort to make them more competitive and discourage them from moving abroad. The bill reduces the corporate tax rate from 35% to 20%, and the rate for pass-through businesses down from 25% with some restrictions. Many families would also pay less, although Speaker of the House Paul Ryan admitted that won't be the case for everyone, and we'll continue to give you more of a rundown as the Senate debates it this week. But again, you have your critics, and I'll play devil's advocate with you at KIDO Talk Radio, who says this is a kiss to big business and doesn't do enough for small business. Your thoughts as we break down this tax reform bill?
Kevin, I can't disagree with that statement, and I think it's refreshing that there was actually an honest comment from a politician that not every family, under every circumstance, is going to get a tax cut. That's pretty obvious, but, for the enemies of trying to make any kind of change to the tax code, that's more fodder for them. But the reality is that most all people are going to have a tax cut, and that's an advantage. Most importantly to me is that we do something on the business side, because we have been watching for many, many years this complete transition of businesses moving out of the United States and setting up tax headquarters somewhere else, because we have one of the highest, if not the highest, tax rates in the world on business. It's absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous that we do that. This is America, and we need to do something about it. Is the bill perfect? No, it's not perfect. I have some stuff I want, too, and they just won't give it to me. And so if they don't, I'm going to vote against it.
Wait a minute. Do you use that voice when you're with Maggie and Doug on Channel 7?
Well, I try not to. I reserve it just for you.
I feel, all of us feel so privileged
so special,
that you don't share that voice with Channel 7. Anyway, I'm sorry. So, and you bring up a very good point. People have talked about Ireland for years because they have one of the lowest tax rates. Again, let me play devil's advocate with you here. And yes, I want businesses to be competitive. I want businesses to stay here. But people have said that, we have a higher tax rate, but we have better accountants. Mm-hmm. We have better people that, find these deductions. So really, the tax rate isn't as it appears to be, because if you hire someone, just like you hire a good lawyer, you can get a better deal.
You're totally right, Kevin. That's 100% true. But for example, with GE and hiring, they're legendary at figuring all that stuff out. They are legendary.
GE, the poster children of corporate welfare. Yes,
correct.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And you can see how well that's done for them, right? The stock is as low as it's been for 30 years. It's absolutely unbelievable how bad they've operated. Part of that, I have to believe, is the simple thing that you are sitting there trying to figure out how to do things in a tax-efficient way instead of what is best economically. It points you in the wrong direction, just like corporate welfare does. If we really can't support, let's say, green energy of some certain kind, and then we wind up with whatever that solar was, you know what I'm talking about, all that corporate graft, it leads us in the wrong direction. It does that with corporations also.
The big solar company that Obama put a bunch of government money into it
Correct.
and went under.
Yeah, because they were big supporters of Obama.
Right.
The classic case of corporate welfare. And so that type of thing leads to nothing more than taxpayer money being wasted and business money going in the wrong direction. That is part of the problem. The second part of the problem is that's not every company out there. So they have to compete. Maybe it's Honeywell. It's trying to compete directly with GE and other areas, and they don't have as many write-offs because maybe they're in some power generation business that
Right.
they don't operate. Why would we want to do that where you can't compete on a level playing field and that companies aren't the same? And the final point I want to make is taxes are not static. This is something that they pass on to consumers. We act like this is some kind of gift to business, and it is, but it's also going to affect itself in lower prices to consumers. Businesses don't pay taxes. That's a fact. They simply don't. They tag it on to the cost of goods to you and I.
Now, this is something that you have been urging for many, many years on Money Matters. We have, in my glee to keep up with you, which again is very small when it comes to matters of finance and money, but it's something we've touched on, and this is something that, well, I can't wait to get your reaction from. Many businesses, Dave, as you've reported, have been holding cash overseas to avoid the 35% U.S. taxes. I mean, Apple alone, Google, all these people have gazillions of dollars overseas. Mm-hmm. Now they would get to bring that money home at a tax rate of 12%. Mm-hmm. The entire business tax system would also change from a worldwide system in which money anywhere around the globe is taxed to a territorial system in which mostly money made in the U.S., that is taxed. Businesses have long lobbied for the change. Let's talk about going from 35% to 12%, and what would that mean if these corporations would bring that money back into the U.S. economy?
You know, first of all, let me go ahead and say the critics will say all they're going to do is stock buybacks and dividends and increase dividends. And the first thing I would say is that, okay, so what's bad about that? How is that bad that that's good for the stockholders, which are the pension funds and endowments and you and I? Why would that be bad if we have higher cash flow coming in the form of dividends? It doesn't make sense to me that that's a bad thing. But if we say that that's going to happen, the critics are simply saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I think when we bring trillions of dollars back, that's a positive. It's sitting overseas doing nothing. Anytime, and we say, well, 25% at best will go to work. Well, best case now is that none of it goes to work. It sits over there. So it doesn't make sense to fight something like this, and I think it's just we don't know what the numbers are, Kevin, but we're going to have some economic development from that because we just don't know what businesses are going to do with it in full. We know they're going to buy back stock, raise dividends. Some of them will expand their operations with that cash. But either way, it's better coming back to the United States than staying overseas.
Dave Petzo with us, Kevin Miller in the morning here as we continue to take a look at the GOP tax reform effort that will not get any Democratic votes. Apparently, but some good news for small business. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, the largest small business lobby, was initially against the bill, but now, after Republicans made some changes, it's given its blessing. 95% of American businesses are organized as pass-through companies, LLCs, S-corps, partnerships, and they pass through the business income to the owner's individual tax rate. The House plan lowers the top rate from 39.6% to 25% for small businesses, excluding companies like consultants and lawyers, and it goes into this complex formula where only the 25% rate only applies to about 30% of the business income. But the reality is most small businesses, 85%, already pay tax rates at 25% or less. To help out the mom and pops, the final bill has a 9% rate on the first $75,000 in income for businesses, owners making $150,000 or less. Plus, but that tax break phases in, meaning it isn't fully available till 2022. For people that are in the small businesses that you have been such a fan of, that we've talked about for years at KIDO Talk Radio, whether it's a trade business or what have you, what does this mean?
It's all good. Is it perfect? Of course not. A perfect thing would be if I paid no tax. That would be perfect to me. But the reality is this is a good, solid move in the right direction. In fact, it's not a solid move. I don't want to diminish this. This is a huge move. We have had for years and years and years and years, and certainly the last 8 years, we've had a complete roadblock to having any kind of tax reform. And the reality is we're now the highest taxed country in the world. This, again, makes no sense. It's not pro-business. This is going to help. It isn't perfect, but it's going to help a lot to reduce tax rates. And even if it only is 30% of the businesses that are having an actual reduction, those 30% of the businesses, that's a big deal to them. If other people are already in a low tax bracket from write-offs and maybe the business isn't operating all that efficiently or whatever, that's called creative destruction. That's what happens all the time. People start up businesses.
You're a big
it doesn't
fan of
work.
That. You're a big fan of that.
Huge.
You
fan
are.
Of that.
See, I listen. I listen.
It is what makes the world go around and why you and I have iPhones and things like that are really cool. Because we get rid of the old, we go to the new, we decide as consumers what we love and what we want to own and what we want to buy. It's a beautiful process.
Let me take issue with you for a minute. Did you do any of this Black Friday stuff?
No.
Okay. I couldn't believe how cheap televisions are. And maybe televisions are just going the way of the rotary phones.
Yep.
You've got, and I did a little bit of research, which means I looked at online ads. Now, this is crazy. This is crazy because they have these big TVs. Now, remember back in the day when a 20-inch color was a big deal?
Oh, yeah. I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. At KIDO Talk Radio. So now they've got 85-inch, whatever. And I'm going, how can they only charge this much? Because you know the deal is, you buy it, 3 months later it goes down several $1,000s. So I was looking at the Best Buy thing because, again, I had nothing to do in between watching the Sunday shows. And they had a television for like $50,000. And another one for by Samsung, another one for 19. And really what it tells me is the technology, as great as it is now, they've already moved on to the next technology. And essentially, and as much as I love television, unless you're going to, live in the box, $20,000 or I think there was one for even $50,000, which was crazy.
Yeah.
But they've already moved on from the UHD to something else.
Yeah.
Because what was it? 180 was big. Now it's 240. That's become the norm. And then there's going to be something else. But it was amazing to me. In our day, you had a television. And you kept it until the tubes went out. And sometimes you bought the tubes and you fixed it, and it was great.
They had such thing as a TV repairman.
Right. which just, again, this transformation that is happening in our society today.
Yep.
You have people not going to games, so they're making it like an experience as if the game isn't enough. Free Wi-Fi or what have you.
Right.
So you can text while you're supposed to be watching live action. It's amazing.
It is amazing. No, the technology is incredible. You remember when they first put in a Dallas stadium?
Yeah.
They put that big TV in?
Right.
That was $1 million for that huge TV.
It's a bargain.
Right. It was at the
Right.
time. Right. Now they've gone way past that, of course. But it's astounding, the clarity of that big a TV. What was it, 3 weeks ago? I was in Seattle watching the
you were in Seattle,
Seahawk game, right?
You
watched these big, giant screens.
Were you meeting with Paul Allen?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So wait a minute.
We're working on some moon landings.
You went to Seattle.
Uh-huh.
You went to a Seahawks game to watch television.
Yes.
How does that work?
They're right there in your face.
So they've got a big screen there at Century.
They do, but the funny thing is you walk in there and they've got the Mariner Stadium's right next to it, okay?
Right.
So you go in there and it's like, come on in, and you can go have a $6 beer or something. It's very, very cheap compared to going into the stadium.
Right.
So thousands of people are funneling through. I'm thinking, well, that's great. Let's go ahead and go over there.
You're a fiscal conservative, so you want a $6 beer.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So you have 6 of them before you leave, right? That's not going to go. What can go wrong with that? But anyway, you go in there and you have all these games on everywhere on this giant screen, and they divide it up into like 8 different
They
football
just didn't
games.
have the Seahawks on. They had other games.
Oh well, I don't know. I'm assuming the Seahawks game was on, but I actually had a several $100 ticket. I think I'm going to go watch the game.
Right.
Not watch it there. But the point is, before the game, you're watching all these others, and it's so clear. It's so clear. It's hundreds of feet away from you. And it's crystal clear, and it's ginormous. I mean, the technology is off the charts.
Now, do you watch the TV? Do you watch the players?
Well, that's for some folks, I guess, that want the $6 beers. They've probably stayed there and watched the TV.
Right.
I chose to go watch the game.
You wanted the ROI on your investment. See, that's why you're Dave Petzo.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
More coming up next at KIDO Talk Radio. And we're back with our great friend Dave Petzo. let's go back to the tax bill again. This, no surprise, from the Washington Post. By the way, you can reach Dave on Facebook. You can reach him on Twitter. You can reach him your website.
Website's easiest. Yep. PetsoFinancial.com.
All right, or at the Petso Center in downtown Boise. I can't really convince you.
9. Now back to Kevin Miller on KIDO.
KIDO Talk Radio. Now on 107.5 FM and 580 AM.
And we're back with our great friend Dave Petso. Let's go back to the tax bill again. This, no surprise, from the Washington Post. By the way, you can reach Dave on Facebook. You can reach him on Twitter. You can reach him your website.
Website's easiest. Yep. PetsoFinancial.com.
All right, or at the Petso Center in downtown Boise. I can't really convince you to move your world headquarters, can I? I mean, Meridian's happening. Look, we got a Dairy Queen and Star. CUNA's expanding. Are any of these cities trying to woo you away from downtown Boise? If not, I'm going to give them the idea to do that.
Right. There you go.
Nampa,
sure.
we got a new mayor in Nampa. I mean,
they're wonderful places, and no,
not yet.
Not yet.
Well,
can't see myself doing that.
If the Baltimore Colts can move,
yes,
who's to say one day?
That's absolutely true.
All right.
It's absolutely true.
So, you never know if those offers are out there.
Yeah, well, if
the price is right,
jacking up the tax rates, and
that's
boy,
right.
They do. I'm telling you, that's along with CCDC and all the money sitting in the coffers for all our buddies, right?
I mean,
that's a lot. There's a lot of money in that kitty there. A lot of corporate welfare around.
So let's talk a little bit about the rich doing very well.
Yep.
Let's see, the estate tax, which is paid only when the property and assets worth over $5.5 million are passed on to heirs, doubles to $11 million in 2018. Around $22 million for couples, meaning a lot fewer people have to pay it. Again, many people, and I'm trying to think who was really critical of the estate tax. Maybe it was Mike Miniger, because I spent 75 hours with him for the past 2 weeks. Or it was someone else, but they talked about the estate tax, and if it wasn't Mike Miniger, it was somebody else saying that, why in the world would you tax someone out of business? Remember, they were worried about the New York Yankees because of the estate tax.
Yes.
You couldn't pass it down. If you build something, especially family farms, especially family businesses, why in the world would the government take its chunk, really penalizing people that have really made something and want to give it to their family, that legacy, if you will?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's why. And I think it's not just everything's always cased in an economic perspective. And to me, it's a moral question. If you've paid taxes your entire life, a lot of taxes, and you've somehow managed to be so successful that you've navigated the tax minefield and accumulated some money, why upon death do we get to take another whack? Why can't they just give their money to whoever they want to, whatever the amount is? To me, it's a moral question. What is the justification for upon your death, Kevin, that we go ahead and steal half your money? What's the justification? I don't understand. Just tell me why that seems like a morally sound choice to you. And the same thing with many of the tax code. Why is it that people should pay 50% and more? Is that because most people don't feel that way, that it's moral and ethical to take more than 25%. In all polling, no numbers ever come up higher than 25% is the fairest number of how much they should take. So yet when we're talking about the tax code, we're always like, shuffle over here, shuffle over there, a give and take here, instead of asking the fundamental question, how much is too much? How much encumbrance by government is too much, and does it slow down the economy?
Traffic and weather together, and Kevin Miller with our great friend Dave Petso. Quickly, Dave, let's take a look at, before we get back to the tax cut bill, anything that you want to share with us today in the voice that you won't use on Channel 7.
I think that I think they're going to get a tax bill, and I think it's important that they do, really from a legislative perspective. And so I think they're going to make progress this week, and that's what I would watch for in the markets as well. I think it's it's really an important issue. This is another big week for the tax bill, that they get it through. And if they can, we can get it on to reconciliation, and they can come up with a decent bill. This is a starter. I think it's important that we reduce corporate taxes, we move forward on tax reform, and we have some legislative breakthroughs here so that hopefully the Trump agenda can continue. It is a very strong pro-business agenda and and lower government agenda, and the more success that it has, I think will feed on itself. We've talked about this so many times, Kevin, about the animal spirits, right, getting cut loose and watching this happen. We're seeing it with business confidence, consumer confidence is skyrocketing. We saw that with the great numbers over Black Friday weekend, right, the Thanksgiving weekend. Good numbers coming out. This is all from a confidence perspective economically, and I think it's time that we move forward in Washington, D.C. and keep that agenda out front.
Finally, it looks like the per-tax deduction credit for children will go up from $1,000 to $1,600. That's good for families as well.
Super good. There's no question about it. This is a good bill. It's a solid bill. It's a good start, and everybody can pick it apart because I want my deduction on mortgage interest. I want my deduction on this or that. There's always going to be items out there, and they just simply can't deal with every single one item. Some people are not going to have as big an advantage. I think somebody called last week about their son who gets, $50,000 or something like that for a student.
Right, scholarships and such, right?
Right. And okay, now it's going to be taxed. Well, honestly, it always should be. It's not something anybody gets free money that isn't taxed. It was a loophole before. It's being closed. And so those are the kinds of things that one-off are going to hurt individuals out there. There is no perfect bill, and if we can generally have something that reduces our tax burden, particularly on business, keeps businesses in the United States, but overall gets out of the way, I think you're going to see more and more economic development.
Dave Petzo, we will catch you this Saturday, correct?
We sure will. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
Always great to talk to our great friend Dave Petzo. Kevin Miller in the morning. Before we take your calls, let's go to Washington, D.C., Capitol Hill. Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
Have you shaken off the holiday doldrums, or knowing you worked the entire time of the congressional recess and the Thanksgiving holidays? Did you get any time to yourself?
Actually, I did have Thanksgiving Day off, and I spent it with some family and made a green bean casserole and had a day there. It was nice.
I'm glad you had a day.
I had a day. How about you?
You're never far away. Even when you're off, you're worried about things happening at the radio station and that sort of, all the behind-the-scenes details. I'm sure they used to say this to you all the time. Oh, you only work 3 hours a day, and then you go,
right.
It must be great, but there are so many things that go on behind the scenes. You're never away from it. You know what I mean?
Right. My family will sometimes hear me for my 30 seconds on the radio, and one of my aunts said, well, what do you do the rest of the day? And I don't think she realizes, I write the reports. I'm talking to people like you. It's just anyway, we do more than what it appears. That's the magic of radio. We make it look so easy.
Well, and that is so funny that you say that. You only work 30 seconds when I can really relate to that.
The rest of the day. I can barely even get to the ladies' room. I'm so busy.
Indeed. So let's talk a little bit about our friends from Congress. They're coming back. It seems like there is some momentum for this tax reform bill. But as you've always warned us, we've got that looming possible government shutdown, at the end of the year. Where are we?
Yeah. Well, tax bill, a separate thing, and it looks like Republicans have the appetite to get it passed, but it's not a done deal. They'll start debating that in the Senate as early as tomorrow. When it comes to the partial government shutdown, they have until December 8th to get spending passed. There could be some hang-ups. One of them primarily is some want to include the Fix for DACA in the spending bill. That's that program that protects kids brought here by their parents from deportation. They actually have another couple of months to get that done as per president's orders, but there are some who want to include it, and that could cause a hang-up. So what you can see, I don't think it's real likely, but the National Christmas Tree will be lit on Thursday of this week, and then the week after they'd have to unplug it because of a partial government shutdown. That's not happened yet, but we've had it before. Where the National Park Service will block the memorials and stuff because you can't look at them because it's the partial government shutdown. And they stopped mowing the lawn, too, and this one guy came from, I don't know, somewhere, maybe out your way, brought his own lawnmower to Washington and started mowing the lawn. He got his 15 minutes of fame. But, I don't know that they have the appetite for that, Kevin, right now. Really, Republicans need to be able to have some legislative victories heading into next year. I
would agree with you. Does this tax reform look like it's going to be a victory?
It could be. see. I mean, there are some that are raising some concerns. We're going to see more of how this will shape up when they start debating this as early as tomorrow. We don't expect that there'll be any kind of Democratic support. The Republicans can only, I believe, lose about 2 votes to be able to push it through. And some are wondering if the Obamacare individual mandate repeal was put in just as a bargaining chip to be able to pull it out at the last second. I mean, there's denials about that, but it certainly is something that's on the table. Susan Collins of Maine has expressed concern about that. You have worries about the bottom line as far as the budget's concerned. Jeff Flake, who's on his way out, doesn't like the president very much. He even wrote a book about it. He could hang it up saying that he's concerned about adding to the deficit.
Rachel Sutherland joining us from Fox News Radio, Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. What about, something that broke right before Thanksgiving? Representative Conyers, Senator Franken, Judge Moore, a lot going on concerning sexual harassment, sexual relations on Capitol Hill. Any movement on that?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting today because both Senator Franken and Representative Conyers are going back to work with this cloud hanging over their heads. Representative Conyers denies any kind of sexual harassment allegations, whereas Senator Franken is just apologizing all over himself. He was on Minnesota Public Radio, I believe, over the weekend, again apologizing for making women feel uncomfortable or violated. And ethics panels are looking into both cases. And you mentioned Roy Moore. That's a wild card. And seeing what happens with that election. If he comes to the Hill, there will probably be an ethics probe right away. So I think this is going to be a bit of a sideshow from everything else that's going on unless there's other allegations that pop. What you'll see is Senator Franken and Representative Conyers coming in, a bunch of cameras, people trying to get a comment from them, things like that. I doubt they'll have much to say, although Franken may. I mean, he seems to be talking about it quite a bit.
Indeed. Has the mood changed at all on Capitol Hill? Has it sent shockwaves like most of us who watch the TV or listen to the radio have picked up on?
Well, I think it still is shocking, but the thing is, it's really not to many people who have worked on the Hill, and to those of us who just pay attention to these things. The sexual harassment is nothing new. I remember back in the days of Anita Hill, and then stories that have broken. I think there was something special about the Me Too movement that has brought it into more of a foreground type of an issue. And then there's this Me Too legislation that would reform the Office of Compliance in dealing with these kinds of complaints on the Hill. So I think it's raised consciousness. I think that I don't know how long the movement will last or if there'll be new allegations. I know this Office of Compliance must have some interesting files in it and non-disclosure agreements about a lot of people.
Rachel Sutherland always leaving us wanting more. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Hank in Boise. Hank, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was pretty good. How was yours?
Not bad, not bad. I was trying to think. Did some stuff at the radio station, and that was about it. That's too much information for me. But what can we do for you here at KIDO Talk Radio, sir?
Okay, Petzl made a remark about the death tax. I'm in total agreement, but I'll go one step further. If you believe in equality before the law, to tax somebody more because she's rich, percentage-wise or whatever, it is not that a violation of equality before the law? And the other moral question is, how does it benefit the poor for the government to take more money from the quote-unquote rich? Do the poor, in the sense, benefit, or are we engaged in something about envy? In other words, we're punishing somebody because they're successful. It seems, again, that the whole entire Democrat position is immoral in principle and can be easily attacked. And it amazes me over many years how the Republicans are scared to death of those arguments. And the other thing that amazes me is all people should be paying taxes. It's morally wrong to have 72% of the taxes, maybe on 1 or 2% of the income, top income, where maybe 40 or 30% pay no taxes at all. That's injustice, isn't it not?
I would agree with you. Now at 580-5436, 580-KIDO is something better than nothing when we're talking about this tax reform bill.
I think anything's better. You have to take whatever you can get. In an ideal world, I mean, I would cut the corporate tax rate even further to make the country even more competitive, and I would do something more for small business and business. But given the politics of the situation, and given the present leadership we have in Congress, I think we have to take what we can get.
Well, we appreciate your thoughts, and Hank, keep your powder dry.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. 580-54. Bye-bye. 580. Sorry about that, Hank. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. We continue on with the tax reform bill. It's interesting that the tax rates, the tax, categories go from 7 to 4, which is a break for a lot of people, and the tax credit for children go from $1,000 to $1,600. We'll go over that in a minute. But again, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, talking a little bit about the sexual harassment issues. You know, people are very quick to jump on the bandwagon to go after Judge Moore. But what about Mr. Franken? And what about Mr. Conyers? Mr. Conyers has been accused of, using money from Uncle Sam to pay off people for non-disclosure agreements. And whatever happened to non-disclosure agreements? Do we really need to know all these things? And as we've said before, you answer this question very simply, and it's something that you were taught as a child, that I'm sure that you are teaching your kids, and that is you live by the golden rule. It's easier said than done, but you live by the golden rule. By the way, let me quickly break down the tax codes for you. The House bill collapses the 7 tax brackets the country has down to just 4, 12%, 25%, 35%, and 39.6%. The top rate becomes a millionaire rate, applying to income of $1 million or more, and a year for couples, that's for couples, and $500,000 or more for individuals. The tax bill does away with many tax credits and deductions. Like I said, $1,600 per child versus $1,000 now, and a new family flexible credit worth $300 a year for individuals and $600 for couples. The larger standard tax deduction means the first $12,000 for individuals and the first $24,000 are tax-free. Now, coming up, we'll tell you a little bit about some of the itemized deductions that are going away and ones that are staying, and plus more on your thoughts concerning taxes and whether or not we trust politicians. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And thank you, Ray Amaya, for that creative rejoinder. Kevin Miller in the morning here, talking taxes and, talking the idea of what's next when it comes to the sexual assault, sexual harassment campaign. By the way, Nancy Pelosi says the icon on Capitol Hill, John Conyers, needs to be given the benefit of the doubt. I wonder if she feels the same about Roy Moore. Philip in Caldwell with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, appreciate being on. And I wanted to actually say again, thank you for the Miller's Mission, doing all that good work. You know, it's just really been uplifting, and I've been thinking about it almost every day since that week and through Thanksgiving, and it's just an amazing thing to be a part of. I'm grateful that you let us be a part of that with you and that you spend so much time on it, really, to help the community.
Thank you for stopping by. I appreciated the nice thoughts, and it's lonely inside this box, and to know that we have someone like you listening and that we make a difference means a lot. So thank you, Philip.
Oh, geez. Well, thank you. Yeah. So on the thought of taxes, and you're very welcome, by the way. I really am grateful. I wanted to share something that I thought about a couple weeks ago, actually, during that program, and I didn't want to detract from it, but on the topic now, on the table is possible tax reform and, the possibility of lessening some of the subsidies, the federally mandated subsidies. And I just want to put a seed out there in people's mind. And of course, I'm still learning and growing in this area, but I really think this is a good opportunity for us to search inside of ourselves and say, do we want the ability to have more freedom when it comes to where we donate and where we help those that are in need, kind of continuing that spirit of the Miller Mission. And for me, I look at this like, yeah, there is the possibility that people on subsidies will lessen the benefits, but it gives us, people that maybe have more ability to work or more desire to go out and earn a regular wage to be able to give where we feel like it's most effective. And that's exciting to me. This is an exciting time, not because I feel like people will lose those subsidies, but because I'll be given more freedom to choose where to help.
Well, that's a great point, Philip, and the idea that, and not to take off the chains of government, because government, there is some good that government does, but on the other hand, the idea, if you want to work more, if you want to start a business, we should, get rid of the shackles of government and really inspire people like yourself to go out and make their own way and to have their own things and to have that ability to help others. That's really what America's about, and I think we've gotten away from that.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think you like a brother, and I know that there's many of us that are really grateful to be a part of this.
Welcome to the family, Philip. All right, our great friend Philip there. What a nice young man, calling in from Caldwell here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And a couple other issues coming up. Our friend Doug Giles will be joining us in the next hour. We'll talk to him about a few issues. And let's see. Well, time for traffic and weather together.
Hard to imagine something more swampy than this, where our elected representatives can abuse their power, abuse subordinates, and then secretly use a slush fund of our money to pay them off without any of the details ever being released. The fact that that is the current status quo is jaw-dropping, I think, to most taxpayers, and is completely unacceptable. On its face, that cannot continue.
You think... I guess having been in Washington a long time, I'm always skeptical. Yes, they're going to take a vote this week and mandatory sex harassment training for members and their staffers. Do you think it'll go further? Do you think that Congress will really clean up its act? That's not a rhetorical question.
No, because it's a self-protection racket. That's the whole point of this. Both parties know that there are people in their ranks being shielded by the status quo, and it's a numbers game. It's all about politics, and so they aren't necessarily keen on this. So the only way that it'll happen is if the American people are angry enough in a sustained way to make sure that a bill comes to the floor and is voted on and is passed, and people who vote against it are shamed, because there aren't good reasons to vote no. I would view, at least on a transparency-minded bill.
Why don't we bring some independent prosecutors for Congress? We're so busy, worrying about independent prosecutors when it comes to the president and everything else. Why don't we have somebody investigate Conyers and Franken and the gang? It really comes down to this. And you in Idaho continue to teach me. That's what makes this show so unique. I can remember many years ago being a baby host and having a gentleman who tutored the great Sean Hannity, who tutored so many great talents in radio, say to me, Kevin, you have to have an opinion and others will follow. I think it's totally different now. I think that, again, we're a tribe and we learn from each other. And here in Idaho, very similar to the folks in North Carolina, you have people that are just genuinely nice. And I've learned here how I want to be treated, and I try and reciprocate that by treating people the way I would like to be treated. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the old east of the Great River comes out in me. We're all only human. But when it comes to people in Congress, when it comes to people in power, when it comes to people that have been blessed with either enormous power, prestige, or wealth, or all three, then you've got to act like Jimmy Stewart. And if you don't know who Jimmy Stewart is, Google him. Watch some of his movies. You have to go back to those things. And you have to live that. It always amazes me, the power of hypocrisy. When all of a sudden you'll have someone that is morally this, morally that, and all of a sudden they turn out to be a hypocrite, especially for Republicans. Democrats get a pass, see Bill Clinton in the mid to early 90s. But for everyone else that wants to live a conservative life, these are it's practical principles. If you're not living the life of your constituents or of your coworkers or of your congregation, what type of life are you living? It's very simple. Al Franken can continue to try and justify these things, and I like to hug people, right? Well, there's different types of hugs, as we know. And I suppose the older we get, the more cognizant we should be of what type of hugs that we should all participate in. maybe it would be nice if Al Franken said what the comedian did. Louis C.K., I was wrong. I was inappropriate. Please forgive me. My actions were inexcusable. Wouldn't that be refreshing? As opposed to this semi-denial. And if these actions are so gross, so overwhelming, then let's get a special prosecutor and not have the House continue to investigate itself or the Senate to continue to investigate itself. It's the hounds watching the hen house, right? Or is that the fox? You got me on that one. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller, Fox News next. Stay tuned. Stay informed.